This video is going to have the answers worked out to the Unit 3 test review worksheet with explanations behind it so that you can check your work and so that you can adequately study and prepare for the upcoming test. Please be aware that this next test is going to have a lot of word problems in it, as you can see from the test review. So we want to make sure we're reading carefully and answering the questions exactly as they are presented. So for number one, there are two parts to this question, a part A and a part B. All right, you are to determine which is the better buy and to prove your answer through your work. All right, so we are trying to decide, is the 40-ounce bag of dog food a better buy or the 24-ounce bag of dog food a better buy? And the way we do the better buys is we figure out how much for 1 ounce. So in this case, you would need to divide. So if you take $6.80 and divide by 40, you're going to come up with 0.17 or 17 cents. Okay, and then if you go to the other side and take $3.60 and divide it by 24, then you're going to come out with 15 cents as your answer. So the better buy is always the cheaper one. So 15 cents is cheaper than 17 cents, which makes the 24-ounce the better deal. Okay. Then when you go to part B, you've got packs of pens. You've got 16 pens versus 15 pens. So same thing. You need to show your dividing first. 474 divided by 6 produces 79 cents roughly. And then when you take $12.72 and divide it by 15, then you end up with 85 cents, thereabouts. So if you're looking for the better buy, 79 cents is cheaper than 85 cents. So that means the 6-pack of pens is your better deal. Okay, for number two, you are putting the following in ascending order. Remember, ascending means from little to big. And the first thing you want to do is turn them all into decimals so that you can compare them. And then you'll write your answer using the original numbers. All right, so 1% is the same thing as 0.01. 10 is the whole number 10, so it's just 10.0. Okay, 1 times 10 to the negative 3 means you take your decimal and you go 3 places left. All right, so that's going to give us 0.001. 1/9, when you do 1 divided by 9, is going to give you 0.1 repeated. And then 100% as a decimal is 1.00. All right, so now that you've got all the decimal pieces, you want to go from the littlest one to the biggest one. All right, and the longer the decimal is, tends to be the shorter or the smaller number. The shorter the decimal is, tends to be a little bit bigger. So if I'm looking at my decimals and I'm looking at money, okay, this 0.001 is next to nothing. You have no value there. So the smallest number in this set is 1 times 10 to the negative third power. Okay, and you write the original number. Do not write the decimal you came up with. Okay, then if we keep going, the next largest amount is going to be 1 cent, the 1.01, so that's 1%. Right, then if I keep going, the next one is going to be the 0.1 repeated, because really that's technically about 11 cents if you look at it as money. So that means 1/9 is going to come next. Right, and then if you look next, you'd have no more decimal values. Everything's in front of the decimal. So you have $1 versus $10. Right, well, $1 is smaller, so 100% goes next. And then $10 is the largest number, so 10 is your final answer. Right, so everything on the left-hand side here is your answer in ascending order. Okay. For number 3 is put the following in order from greatest to least. So this time we're going from large value to small value. And once again, we want to change them all into decimals first. All right, so 8.27 times 10 to the third power, you move your decimal 3 places to the right. So this produces the number 8,270. That's a pretty big number. Okay, then if you go to 7/8, that's 7 divided by 8, which should give you 0.875. Okay, and then 0.32 is already a decimal, so we leave that one alone. 270%, you move your decimal 2 places to the left, so that's 2.70. And then when you type in square root of 84.64, it gives you 9.2. All right, so there's your values. Now we're going to put them in order from the biggest one down to the littlest one. So you can see by looking that 8,270 is the biggest number. So in your answer, 8.27 times 10 to the third has got to go first. All right, then once that one's done, if we look next, we've got $9.20 roughly is the next biggest one. So it's going to be the square root of 84.64. Remember to write the original value. Okay, after that one is done, then $2.70 comes next, so that's 270%. Right, then we want to look for the next largest amount, which 87 cents beats 32 cents, so that's 7/8 is next. And the smallest one in this problem is 0.32. So there is, everything on the left is the biggest number down to the littlest number. You will have to put things in order, so you need to make sure you understand what to do with those. For number 4, it's turning a number into scientific notation. If you notice with this one, all the zeros are in the front, which should give you a clue that your exponent needs to be negative. All right, so now we just got to figure out where do we put the decimal. Remember that your decimal cannot be behind a 0, and it needs to be in front, or only one number can be in front of it that's not a 0. So you can't have 2 digits or more. So in this case, it would be 3.49 times 10. And because all the zeros were in front, it's a negative exponent, and we moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So 3.49 times 10 to the negative 5. All right, for number 5, you are going to label each one of these as a true or false statement, and you have to check them out to see what's going to happen. All right, so in the first one, we've got to turn them all to the same value before we can determine if the signs are correct. 12% is 0.12. 3 divided by 25 is 0.12. 20% is 0.20. All right, so what it's asking us, is 0.10 smaller than 0.12? Yes. Is 0.12 equal to 0.12? Yes. Is 0.12 smaller than 0.20? Yes. Because you said yes to everything, this is a true statement. All right, so we go to the next one and do the same thing. We already have 0.02. 2% is 0.02. 1 over 50 is 0.02. And 20% is 0.20. All right, so we look at this and say, is 0.02 smaller than 0.02? No, they are equal. So you don't even have to check the rest of the problem. This immediately is a false statement. All right, so then we go to the third one. We have 0.08. 8% is 0.08. 1/8 is 0.125. 10% is 0.10. All right, so if you start on the left, is 0.08 smaller than 0.08? No, they are equal. So once again, this is a false statement. All right, so then we go to the bottom one, 0.375. 37.5% as a decimal is 0.375. 3 divided by 8 is 0.375. 48% is 0.48. So on the left, 0.375 equals 0.375, yes. 0.375 equals 0.375, yes. 0.375 is smaller than 0.48, yes, because 37 cents is smaller than 48 cents. So this is a true statement. All right, so you need to be able to go through and pick out the true ones and the false ones from the way they look. For number 6, you are putting the less than, greater than, or equal to sign in place. And again, it's about changing them all to the same value so that you can compare them. The left one is fine. Negative 6.78 is good. For negative 6 3/4, this is negative 6.75. So think of it in terms of money. Who owes you more money? Well, the person who owes you $6.78 owes you more money, so that is the smaller number. The person who owes you the least is the bigger number in negatives. So because negative 6.78 is smaller, we're going to say that is less than negative 6.75. All right, for the next part, 8% is 0.08, and 8 times 10 to the negative 2, take your decimal and move it 2 places left, that's 0.08. All right, they are both the same, so this is equal. And then for the next one, 7 divided by 9 gives you 0.77 with the 7s repeating. Right, so the next number would be a 7, and then for 77%, it's just 0.77. Behind that last 7 would be a 0. So if you're looking at the third place value, the 7 and the 0, right, 7 is bigger than 0, so 7/9 is bigger than 77%. Okay, so you want to make sure you know how to compare these things as well. All right, now starts the run of word problems. All right, and they're all mixed together, so you've got to make sure we're answering each one as we go. For number 7, a laptop regularly costs $14.69, on sale for 15% off, and there's a 4.5% sales tax. How much tax do you pay on the sale? So basically, it's only asking you for the value of the tax, nothing else. All right, so for this first part, you're going to start with $14.69 times 0.15, because that's what the percent is that it's on sale for, and that's going to give you $220.35. Okay, that is your discount. So now we want to find the sale price. So we have $14.69 minus $220.35. So that gives us a sale price of $1,248.65. Okay, but that's not the tax. So now we need to take and apply the percentage for tax. So you take $1,248.65 and you multiply by the tax rate. The tax rate is 4.5. So in decimal format, that's 0.045. Type that in your calculator, and you come up with $56.19. So the amount of tax for this problem is $56.19. It did not ask you for the total cost, so do not go too far. For number 8, you have the stereo that regularly costs a certain amount on sale, and we want to know what is the sale price of the stereo, right? So this one, we just want to figure out what is it on sale for. So you take your $459.99 and multiply by 0.15, okay, and that gives you $69. And because it's on sale, we're going to subtract. So we're going to take $459.99 and subtract our $69. So our final answer is going to be $390.99. When you get to the cash register, that's what it would round up as, or ring up as. That's your sale price. All right, for number 9, it is asking you what will be the final price. So that means the total amount. So it's on sale and we've got tax involved. There's 4 steps when it asks you for final price. All right, so we start with the $1,200. We multiply by 0.30, and we end up getting $360. That's the discount. So now you take your $1,200, you subtract your $360, and that ends up giving you $840. That's what it's on sale for. So now you take your $840, and we multiply it by the tax rate as a decimal would be 0.0575, and that gives us the amount of $48.30. That's your tax. So now we take the $840 and we add back to it the $48.30, and that will give us our total cost. So the total cost for this television is going to be $888.30. Okay, so make sure you're answering the question as it's asked of you and that you show all of your work to get there. All right, for number 10, the Smith family has a 10% off coupon for dinner at their favorite restaurant. Their bill is $42.50, and they wish to tip 15%. What will they pay for the whole meal, including the tip? All right, so the entire meal with the tip included. Well, the first thing you've got to figure out, okay, is how much are they going to get to take off because of their coupon. So you've got $42.50 times 0.10, which means that they are saving $4.25 with this coupon. So you take $42.50. And with discounts, we subtract $4.25. So now the bill comes out to be $38.25. All right. And from that, we want a tip. So we take the $38.25 and we calculate what 15% tip would be. All right. So that comes out being $5.74. And when we add it back, $38.25 plus $5.74, you'll get the total amount. So the total amount for this meal with the coupon taken off and with the tip included is $43.99. All right, number 11, Molly wants to buy a skirt. Original price is $29. Skirt is on sale. She gets to the cash register and the person tells her she gets an extra percentage off of the sale price, not counting tax. How much will she pay for the skirt? When you are doing problems like this, you have to do each discount separately. So we have to start with 29, and we're going to do the first discount of 30%, so 0.30. 29 times 0.30 is going to give us $8.70. That's our first savings. So now we're going to take 29 minus $8.70, and that's going to give us $20.30. Right. When you go to apply the percentage off at the register, the extra percentage off, it's going to come off of the $20.30. You don't go back to the 29 again. So you take $20.30, and now we take an additional 25% off. So that would be 0.25. So $20.30 times 0.25 is going to give us $5.08. So that's an additional savings that we get to have. So you, again, take and subtract $20.30 minus $5.08. So the original skirt that was $29 is now going to cost $15.22 after all of those sales. Okay, you cannot add the percentages together and then take it off one time. You have to do each one separately because the dollar amount does change. All right, for number 12, it says in a survey, 75% of the people voted said that they would vote, or sorry, the people polled voted said that they would vote in the upcoming election. How many people were polled if 375 said they would vote? All right, so this is where your percent proportion comes in pretty handy. The percent 75 goes over 100, and then the 375, right, is not the total. They're asking you how many people were polled. They're asking you for the total. The 375 is the part of them that said they would vote. So 375 goes on the top, and the of is what we're missing. So now you do your cross multiplying. 75 times x is 75x. 100 times 375 is 37,500. Divide by 75, and you get x equals 500. right? So basically when it goes back to what part of this did they ask you for, they asked you how many people were polled. 500 people were polled. Okay, and you can't just write people because people are voting as well. Okay, so 500 is the total amount. For number 13, Brandon answered 48 out of 60 questions correctly on his test. What was his score as a reduced fraction and as a percent? So if you start 48 out of 60 means 48 over 60. You want to reduce it, so you can divide by 2, you can use 4, you can even use 12. All right, there's a whole bunch of possibilities. Just make sure that after dividing that you get as far as you can and as low as you can. The final answer after dividing is 4 over 5. So if you divided by 12, that would have gotten you there right away. If you used other numbers, you would have had to do a little bit more. So now to turn a fraction into a percent, we do dividing. 4 divided by 5 is 0.8. And then to turn your decimal into a percent, you move 2 places to the right. So this would make an 80%. Is what he got on the test. All right, for number 14, Camila has $22.50 in a savings account, earns 4.7 interest a year. What is the amount of interest she will have if she leaves the money in for 5 years? It is only asking you for interest. So immediately you should be checking into the formula I equals PRT. And that's the only formula you're going to need for this. The I is what we don't know, right? The principal is what she started with, so $22.50. The rate would be the percentage as a decimal, so that would be 0.047. And the time has to be in years, and it was 5 years. So once you type that into your calculator, it is money, so it must go to the penny spot. Your interest, or her interest, should I say, is going to be $528.75. Okay, for number 15, she owes money in student loans for college. Simple interest rate is 7.25%. Loan will be paid off after 10 years. How much will she pay all together? That means with interest and what she had to pay back, what is her total amount at the end? So you do have to do more than one formula here. The first thing you do have to start off by finding is what is her interest first. Principal is $35,000. Okay, the rate would be 7.25% as a decimal, so 0.0725. The amount of time it was in there was 10 years that she had to pay it back. So now that we are calculating, we're going to get her interest off of her loan is $25,375. Okay, and this is how college works, guys, so you'll have to make sure you understand this if you plan on going, because it's not cheap. Now that you have the interest, that's not the final answer. They want to know what did she have to pay all together, right? So this is where you have your total amount formula, which is the interest plus the principal, right? So our total amount here is going to be her $25,375 plus the $35,000 she initially borrowed, right? So for this final answer, in order to pay off all her loans, she's got to pay back $60,375. Okay, so what you think you're only borrowing a little bit for is really going to cost you a lot more in the long run. All right, for number 16, borrows $2,000 to fix his car. At the end of 4 years, he had paid the mechanic $360 in interest. Find the rate of the loan interest using this formula. All right, you'll notice the R is missing, not the I this time. All right, so the I is going to stay $360. But we want to multiply the 2,000 and the 4 together. There's no reason to have separate numbers. 2,000 times 4 is 8,000 R. And to solve for R, we have to divide by 8,000. Okay? And after dividing by 8,000, 360 divided by 8,000 is going to give you the R value of 0.45. Well, that's not the percentage. That is the R value. They want to know what rate, which means it's a percentage, was the R. So you have to physically turn this decimal into, I'm sorry, it's 0.045. You have to physically turn this decimal into a percentage to get the right answer. So you take and move your decimal 2 places. So the final answer for this problem is 4.5%. That is the R value that would have made that $360 happen. So you will have to do one of these on the test. So make sure you understand the process behind it and what you need to do to get the answer right. All right, for the next problem, his beginning balance for his checkbook, this is where you're going to keep track of all of his money by adding or subtracting depending on if it's deposits or withdrawals, right? And then we'll see what kind of balance they end up with at the end. All right, so he's going to start with $1785.52. First thing he's going to do is pay his electric bill, so you're going to subtract 186.19, right? And that gives you a total of $15.99.33. Then you're going to take from that and you're going to subtract his next bill of $522.43, right? And that's going to give you a total of $1076.90. And then it tells you he gets paid at the end of the month, so he's depositing, so that's plus 225.12. And after you get done adding that paycheck in, you will have a grand total, or he will have a grand total, of $1,302.02. That is his ending balance. So you do have to show all of your transactions within your work to get the answer to come out the way it's supposed to. All right, for number 18, get rid of some of this. Jackson weighed 389 pounds. By July, he was weighing 159 pounds. What is the percent of decrease in his weight from January to July? We are doing percent of change, which remember is big minus little divided by original times 100. So our big number is 389. Our little number is 159. The original number, okay, came out being 389. That's what he started off weighing in January. And then you're going to hit times 100 when you do this. Remember, we always round to the tenths place if needed. So his percent of decrease, is 59.1%. That's how much weight he lost, was 59% of his weight. For number 19, it cost Charlie's car repair shop $23 to change the oil. The shop charges $45 for an oil change. What is the percent of increase in the cost of an oil change? All right, so again, it's asking for percent of change. Big minus little over original times 100. So the big number in this case is 45 minus 23. The original number is 23. Then do times 100. Right? And if you need to round to the tenths place, which you do, it's going to come out being 95.7%. Right? That's how much that they are marking up the oil change for, so that they can make a profit. For number 20, we're recycling 2,000 pounds of paper, save 17 trees. How many trees are saved with 5,000 pounds of paper? This is a proportion problem. Right? You don't have any percents going on or anything else, so you're going to set up your proportion. Remember, I taught you to do the words first, then set up the proportion, then do the work. So we're dealing with pounds and trees. Those are our words. So when we set this up, it's going to be 2,000 pounds over 17 trees, and then we're going to have 5,000 pounds over we don't know how many trees. So that's what we're going to solve. We do your cross multiplying, so you end up with 2,000 times x is 2,000x equals 17 times 5,000, which is 85,000. Divide by 2,000, and you get x equals 42.5 trees. If you go back and look where your x was sitting, it was sitting at the number of trees, so 42.5 trees basically. Number 21, a stenographer can type 57 words per minute. How long will it take to type 975 words? Again, a proportion would work for this. You've got words and you've got minutes. Okay, so for this first one, it's going to be 57 words in 1 minute. Remember, the word per means 1. Equals 975 words over we don't know how many minutes. So that's what we're going to solve. So you have 57 times x is 57x. Make that a little clearer for you. And then 975 times 1 is 975. So you're going to divide both sides by 57. And you'll get your x. So in this case, x equals 17.1, and then because it was time in minutes. Okay, don't worry about getting decimal answers, just round them to the tenths place if that happens, right? Because we're trying to solve the proportion as accurately as possible. Right, for number 22, it is also proportion. Remember with scale and maps, it's going to give you the scale, which is the first part of your proportion, right in the problem. Right, so 1/8 of an inch equals 25 miles. So when you're setting your words up, it's going to be inches over miles. If they're the same unit, then it's the drawing over the real thing. The real thing is always the bottom number. All right, so in this case, 1/8 is 0.125 over 25. Then if we keep reading it on a map from Virginia Beach to New York is 8 3/8 inches, so that would be the top. We're trying to figure out the actual distance on the road. So this would come out being 8.375 for that top number. Then you do your cross multiplying. So 0.125 times x is 0.125x. Go the other way, 8.375 times 25 is 209.375. You're going to divide by 0.125. Be careful with your decimals. And once you get done doing that, you're going to figure out that on the road, Virginia Beach to New York, with this map, is 1,675 miles. Make sure you include the word miles. All right, for number 23, we're dealing with shadows and structures. So at this point, we're looking at a streetlight versus a person. All right, so when you go to set these up, just make sure you stay consistent. For this case, I'm going to use the height of the object versus the shadow of the object. and that way it'll come out okay. So with the street light, we're going to have 16 feet is how tall it is, and it has a 10-foot shadow. For the person is 6 feet tall, and we don't know how long the shadow is. That's the whole proportion part. All right, so after multiplying, you're going to have 16x equals 60, divide by 16, and when you divide, you get that the person's shadow is going to be 3.75 feet, and you have to say long, because shadows are not tall, they're long. All right, so 3.75 feet would not be enough. You have to put the word long in there. All right, for number 24, the last problem, a real estate agent sold a house for $432,000. She earns a commission of 2.3% on the house. How much was her commission? Commission is how much extra money she gets based off the price of selling that house. And the way we do this is exactly like we would do anything else with percentages. You take the original price, $432,000, and you multiply by the commission rate as a decimal. So 2.3% as a decimal would be 0.023. And when you get done multiplying that, the answer you have is her commission. That's how much money extra she gets because she sold this house. So when you get done typing it in, it should come out to be $9,936. So she gets that much money just for selling that one house. Okay, so use these problems and the setup of these problems to help you prepare for the test. It will be a lot of word problems. Make sure you know your formulas. That's going to be the biggest thing to do. All right, and we'll see if you have any other questions when you come to class.